This is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. And today is also our last Midday with Reverend Don for year 23. And I hope that you're having a lovely Friday. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your question or comment into whatever platform you happen to be watching on. It will show up here in the chat room and we can communicate directly. And as I said, today is our last program for this calendrical year, year 23. And hello to Jason in the chat room. It's good to see you, Jason. And, I've been talking the last few days about using this time to focus on those things that have happened in year 23 in your life, whatever they may be, and thinking about those things that you wish to release with the end of the year. And so I'm going to continue to focus on that thought. Hello to Alan in the chat room. It's good to see you. And as we begin the new year on Monday, we'll focus on the things we wish to manifest. Hello to Renee in the chat room. New Year's Day is usually considered very much the ending of one cycle and the beginning of another, because calendrically speaking, it is. And it is a very good time to focus on those things you want to change in your life. I mean, it's notorious for the New Year's resolution. But the concept of the New Year's revolution or New Year's resolution that's become a trope in society is basically a resolution of what you're going to change that you do not. When we're speaking magically, it's not just a decision of something you're going to do, but a magical process of pulling new good things into your life and releasing old things from your life. And it is not something that you want to have beyond what you believe you can do, but to have well within practicality. And you focus on bringing the new in and sending the old out. When I say well within practicality, this is a very relevant term to different people. What you mean, what you feel you can do, I would to some extent say is what you can do, magically speaking. So, if your goal is to lose 150 pounds in the coming year, I don't think I would make that my act of magic. On the other hand, if your goal is to lose weight, that's a great act of magic. And hello to Magical Mermaid in the chat room. It's good to see you, Magical Mermaid. So pick things that you believe you can accomplish, draw them into your life, and focus on them. And I think you'll find that you can, in fact, accomplish them. And it's very different from a New Year's resolution where you're simply saying, I'm going to do this, to a magical act where you're actually sending it out into the universe as a positive action you have taken. Now, of course, that also means be careful what you wish for. I was doing Tarot Thursday last night. We did a triple header with myself, Reverend Mary, and Reverend Brian. But one of the things that sometimes comes up is the Nine of Cups, which is called the Wish card. And when the Nine of Cups comes up, part of the message is always to be careful what you wish for, because what you wish for is what you will get. And magically speaking, I tend to believe this is the case. And it means not only what you consciously wish for, but also can be a reference to your beliefs and expectations. And that's part of why shadow work is so very important. Shadow work is where we examine our unconscious beliefs, expectations, blockages, and work to heal and resolve them, so that we don't accidentally act from crossed wires where we think we want one thing, but inside we're stopping ourselves from having it. So be aware of what you wish for on all levels and make sure it's what you really want. But as you go into the new year, now is a perfect time to focus on it. Over the weekend, we're going to be doing a show on predictions for the new year here at Pagan World TV. And I'm not sure of the exact time, but if you watch my page on Facebook, you will see it there. Or probably any platform you're seeing this program on, there'll be an announcement. Um, and it will be an interesting program. And it will be, of course, most interesting, like all such predictions programs, to review it again next year and see how well it did or did not hit. Um, but it's also always a good time for divination when you have a change in cycle like this. A good time to look ahead, bearing in mind that the messenger can always warp the message. And so, as I always say, if Spirit tells you to sell everything you own and go buy lottery tickets, don't do that. That would be a warped message. Why do we warp messages? Sometimes our hopes or our fears get in the way of our vision. Um, and when we do psychic readings, when we do psychic work, it's very important that we take a passive stance, that we receive information and do not influence it ourselves. And that's probably the hardest thing about it. The reality of it is that psychic work is a very easy thing to do, although most people convince themselves otherwise and therefore make it harder. But it really is largely a matter of just relaxing and let it happen. However, it also is very easy to let your hopes and fears influence it, and you have to learn how to keep that out, how to keep your mind in a passive state. And this is a mixed blessing because I have to say that as a psychic, that has been one of my great skills. And in life, it has been a strong trait of mine that sometimes has not always been equally desirable. I tend to always look for the good and not be particularly judgmental. Um, and sometimes when um, sometimes I've let that be a little too strong in my life. But as a psychic reader, that sort of passive reception is always good. As a person, not always. And Jason says, Happy New Year, everyone. And Magical Mermaid says, Happy New Year. And Alan says, Blessings for the new year. And I think we're all ready for the new year. Um, and, as I look back over the last several years, I think that's been the emotion at the start of each of them. And it seems to me the world as a whole is going through a lot of shadow work at this time. And we certainly are not done with it. But that doesn't mean that we cannot personally have a good year. Doesn't even mean the world will necessarily have a bad year. It just means there's a lot of shadow work going on in the world. It sometimes seems to me over these last few years that every aspect of humanity's shadow has been pulled forward to be dealt with, which, if we think of this as the turning of the age, which in the Corellian tradition we do see it as, that does make sense. That the early years of the New Age would be all about healing as much as can be healed of the shadow of the old age. And I think in many ways that is where we are. Now, I mentioned we're going to do a prediction show over the weekend, but I thought today I would draw a couple of cards for the new year. Not a big in-depth thing, but just a little flavor. And I have with me my Tarot of Hecate, and I'm going to shuffle it up and think about year 24. What will year 24 bring us? I'm not going to think about what I want year 24 to bring us. That's not relevant. That's not the passive reception I've been talking about, but rather what will year 24 bring for us? Having no expectations for the answer. And I'm just going to shuffle get them all good and confused, let them get used to the message that I am asking them. And that is, what will year 24 bring us? And I will wait for them to tell me they've been shuffled enough. And for me, I usually judge that by a certain feeling that I get. Sometimes I feel it quite physically in my hands. But, there are many different ways that you can tell when it's been enough. Then I'm going to cut them. And then I'm going to draw 3 cards. So the first card that I've drawn is the Four of Swords. And the Four of Swords is a waiting period. So that I would say, looking at this, that the year will get off to a rather slow start. That the things that are coming in the new year will probably really start to come into play more in the spring. And of course, this is a 3-card reading. It's not going to be deeply detailed, but it's followed by the Four of Wands, which is a card of celebration, achievement of goals, very positive card to come up. And again, I would look for that really to start coming around spring, things moving in good directions, followed by the Empress, which is prosperity, sustenance, the care of the universe. Very positive card. So I see those as very positive cards for this coming year. I'm going to draw 3 more, because of course I am. And I've drawn Magic, which is the ability to work your will in the world. The Seven of Pentacles, which is having to take time to decide what your will is, looking at many different possibilities, and deciding in which way you're going to point that chaos moment. And Death. And I would expect, looking at those cards, plus the first 3 cards, that this will be a good year, but major, major changes for the positive in going forward. I think it may be a little bit of an epochal year. But as I say, over the weekend, we're going to do a prediction show, and we'll probably have much more depth than what we look at there. So I highly recommend following it. But looking at that, I would say that we're doing exactly the right thing by focusing on those things we wish to leave behind and those things we wish to manifest, because it looks like it's a very good year for manifestation. Of course, for a magical person, all years are good years for manifestation. And that's one of the things that I think people often get wrong about the magical path. The magical path is about transforming your life and about taking the power to change your life, to change the way you interact with fate, the way that you interact with the world. And I think that sometimes people who study magic see it more as a way of simply adjusting to the powers of fate in the universe and reacting to them. And while it certainly can be used that way, and it can be good that way, the real knowledge of magic, the real ability of magic, is rather to take control of those powers, to focus on what it is that you wish to develop as you go forward. A few days ago, I talked about the idea of making a room in time. This is a technique I don't think I've put in writing, but I've used it for a long time. And I think that I'm going to take a few moments and do a visualization in the form of a room in time for things that I would like to see in the new year. And I think that that first, let us take a moment to think of those things that we wish to leave behind. And I realize that we've been focusing on this for a while, but I think it's very important. So let me have you take a nice, comfortable position and clear and release all excess energy. And become aware of your heart chakra. Imagine it at the center of your chest as a ball of beautiful clear white light. And in that ball of beautiful clear white light, take a moment to think of the things that you wish to leave behind in year 23. Things that do not serve you, things that do not bring you joy. Think of those things and see them clearly within the ball of white light. And pull them forth from your chest between your hands, still in a ball of white light. And see them clearly before you. And behold, there is one power in the universe, and we are all of us perfect manifestations of that power, and as such, we will that these things, which we choose to leave behind with the closing of year 23, will depart from us and not return to us. We send them away, we release them. By our will, so mote it be. We will it, we draw it to us. We see the pattern and we align it. By our will, so mote it be, and see that ball grow smaller and smaller and fade away. And as the ball fades away, so too do all the things you placed into it. Now, let us again clear and release all excess energy, pouring out of us like water, pouring down through our arms and our legs, out through our hands and our feet. And let us create a room in time. And imagine your room in time as a largish, empty room. And this room is the upcoming year 24. And in that room, let us now put the things that we wish to see in year 24. And I'll describe some of the things that I'm putting in for myself. You can put in the ones that you want in the way that you want to do it. But I'm going to see first a couch at one side of the room, and this couch is prosperity. It's prosperity, it's money, it is security. It's a big comfy couch, and I see it in one side of the room. And next to it, I see a lamp. And the lamp is good decisions and clear executions. And the lamp sheds its light throughout the room. Nearby is a large overstuffed chair. I place that chair into the room. And this is the help and support of others. And on the other side of the room, I place another overstuffed chair. And this is successful projects of various types. And finally, I place an artwork on one wall. And this artwork is satisfaction and happiness. And all these things I place into my room and time. And perhaps I place some other things as well, but these things are the major things. And behold, there is one power in the universe, and I am a perfect manifestation of that power. And as such, I create this room and time. I create it, I draw it into being. I manifest it. I see it. I accept it. I receive it. By my will, so mote it be. And it is so. I see the room manifesting. And now I'm going to enter my room and time. And I feel myself passing through a barrier. And that barrier is kind of like a wall of jello, but made of light. And I see myself passing through that wall, on the other side of which is the room I have just created. And I pass through my wall slowly and surely, entering into the room. And I have now entered the room, and behold, I claim for myself this room and time and all that it represents. I claim it, and may it play out in my life in physical ways and spiritual ways. By my will, I will it, I draw it to me. I see the pattern and I align it. I accept it, I receive it, and I give thanks for it. By my will, so mote it be, and it is so. And I see myself at one with my room and time. And I allow the image to fade, and I clear and release all excess energy. And that is making a room and time. And I hope that you join me and made the room that you want to see for year 24. And one of the things about following a magical life is it gives us a great deal of control in what we receive, provided we have done our shadow work and we're clear on what we want. But even then, fate always can take a hand, and sometimes what you receive is certainly not what you consciously thought you wanted. I find that sometimes if you look at it again, particularly at a later point, you may find that it was more what you wanted or what you needed than you thought it was. But things don't always go as we plan, even when we are following a magical path. And what do we do when that happens? Well, we get up and do the next right thing. And I'm always a believer in that next right thing. It's not helpful to lament things that have not gone as you desired. Rather, it's helpful to pick up and do the next right thing, moving forward toward where you do want to be. Now, that doesn't mean you don't examine situations, your own actions, what might have been done better, what may have been done badly. But it also does not mean that you allow this to obsess or overpower you and stop you from going into the future. One of the great examples of a person who did not do their shadow work is Miss Havisham from Great Expectations. And some of you will remember this figure. She was a beautiful young woman who was left at the altar on her wedding day and was so overwhelmed by this that she refused to move forward in any way and lived for years in a house that remained decorated for the wedding, wearing her wedding dress every day, acting as if time had stopped. And this is a very extreme example, although apparently it was based on a real person who had just such an example. But although it is an extreme example, it's not so far from what some people do in life. When things didn't go the way they wanted, they obsess over it forever. And you'll hear them years afterwards going on about everything other people are doing and doing nothing themselves. The magical person, the practical person, well, again, they will examine situations. They will look for better ways of doing things, but they will get up and they will do the next right thing. And I hope that you will do that as well as you go forward. And we're getting some more Happy New Years in the chat room. And I hope that you have a wonderful New Year. I hope we all have a wonderful New Year. And, one of the things about life that I think is particularly good to focus on at times like this when we're looking at the change in a cycle is that there's really enough for everyone. This is a very large, very bountiful world when we allow it to be. And too often people think of it as being a place of want and need rather than a place of creation. But the magical point of view is that this is a world of creation and transformation. That's what we're here for. That's um, what we are meant to be doing. And there is enough here for everyone to have that experience. And so we should never allow ourselves to be convinced that we can't, because the answer always is in the end, yes, we can. Now, that doesn't mean it won't be work. That doesn't mean it's not difficult. But in the end, we can always find the ways to go forward. And Um, and hello to Hillary in the chat room. And Hillary says, I needed to hear this today. I've been grieving the loss of my fiance when his body died. I've been frozen in time. And this is exactly what I'm speaking of. And Hillary, may you have freedom in this moment to go forward. And of course, your grief is a good and honorable thing. You have experienced it. Now you can free yourself. You can rise up and do the next right thing for you while continuing to honor the memory of your loved one. But go forward. Go forward and make a good life for yourself. And I'm sure that your fiance would have wanted that same thing for you. And all of us, it's natural. We're human. Of course, sometimes things are going to stop us. Things are going to overwhelm us periodically. Um, and sometimes they're easier to move on from than others. One of the things I've had to deal with in this last year were a number of health issues, some of which are not just a matter of getting up and moving on from. It takes work to do that. But I firmly believe that life goes on, and that everything can be dealt with, particularly in a magical path. Um, and certain things that I did previously, I don't do now, like walking without a cane, but or at least on certain surfaces. But that's actually only a minor adjustment in life, and there are still many wonderful things. The biggest lesson that I learned in this last year is the importance of joy in life. And I have tended to be a little bit of a workaholic, and tended to be perhaps a little bit too concerned with the past and the future, and not always enough on the present. Um, and one of the things that I have learned is that it is important to take time now for the beautiful things in life. And if you had asked me, I would have said it before, but I understand it better now. That whole idea of stopping to smell the roses at the side of the road. And, it's often said, and it's certainly true, that it's the journey, not the destination, that is the most important thing. And we should all enjoy that journey. And so for me, one of the things I'm trying to do is to enjoy my journey a little bit more, and take a little bit more time for myself and for my own joy. And I would recommend that to everyone. When we come to the end of our lives, um, the thing that I hope we will all have are many memories filled with joy. The things that matter to us in life are very often the relationships we have made, um, and the good things we have accomplished, and very rarely just the work we've put out. There may be a certain satisfaction in the work we have put out, but it's not the point. The point is to do good things, and to have good experiences, and to have good relations with others. And I hope that for all of you. And as we come to the end of our last broadcast for year 23, um, and look forward to our first midday with Reverend Don for year 24, those are the hopes that I put out into the universe. And as you go through this weekend, which is the final weekend of year 23, remember to focus on the things you don't want to carry forward into year 24, and the things that you hope to find in year 24. And with that, I see we've come to the end of our half hour, so I want to thank you for joining me. I love spending this time with you. I love talking to everyone in the chat room. I love all of you. And you are one of the things that gives me joy in life, and I hope that that you find some joy in this broadcast as well. So let us close with our prayer, as we always do. And Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to help us to constantly do the next right thing. And if on occasion we miss it, will help us to find the next one after. And help us always to move forward and to have joy in our hearts. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and thanks, and may you be blessed now and always. May you be blessed now and always, and I will see you in, I'll see you over the weekend on other programs, but here at Midday with Reverend Don, I will see you in year 24.